Hello, gamers, and welcome to another exciting edition of Game Warp. I'm Elwood,
I'm Kim.
and this is our review of What Remains of Edith Finch. Edith Finch is a 2017 release from developer Giant Sparrow, and the game itself is a first-person narrative adventure video game. And this has been released not only for PC, but also for PlayStation 4 and Xbox One as well. The game itself sees you playing a member of the Finch clan, who are an American family who seem to have somehow picked up a curse, which means they're all sort of doomed to die in various grisly ways. And now it's, as the last surviving Finch, you return to the family home to look into the family past and try and uncover what the details of this secret are. This is a game which is very much a walking simulator in both visual and style. It's certainly a game which has really caught our attention, and certainly when we look towards the Video Game Awards has also managed to catch attention, certainly in the independent and development categories as well. So it's obviously been a title that we were very keen to check out for ourselves and certainly see if it lived up to the hype. But I mean, Kim, opening thoughts on What Remains of Edith Finch. I mean, this is a game that you obviously brought to the table. I mean, this is the sort of game that you like to throw at me. Because it's an independent development and it's not your traditional style of what you would consider to be a video game.
Well, I mean, I think that, from all the walking simulators that we've done, and we've done quite a bit of them, this one is definitely the one with the more, like, I would call it a variation of gameplay where the adventure aspect really stands out and the narration aspect, like, is a really good balance between the two. Like, you really get to, like, sure, you're moving around a lot, but, like, visually, this game is very stunning, and the stories, it's just really a series of short stories, is the way you'd call it, as you go through all of these people, and the different adventures that you go on for each person it varies differently for everyone, and I think that that's where the merit comes in the sense that it's able to really immerse you into, how each of these members lost their life.
Yeah, and I mean, the whole story is narrated by Edith. As we said, she's the last surviving member of the Finch family. They've all met their demise in these horrible, horrible ways, and it's very reminiscent of like the works of Ian Banks, in particular, things such as like the Wasp Factory. It's got that sense of family dysfunction to it, and certainly as you go through the game, you start to realize just how dysfunctional some of these family members are. Um, some of the deaths are funny, some of them accidental, and some are just sort of downright strange, to say the least. And we'll obviously go into some of them as we go, but certainly compared to some of the walking simulators that we've done, like Everybody's Gone to the Rapture, Gone Home, this is a game which felt similar in many ways, especially into Everybody's Gone to the Rapture, but at the same time I felt like I actually had more to do than just going around collecting messages, as was the case of Everybody's Gone to the Rapture. And with this game, I mean, it's very much the case that you're following the narration that Edith is providing, so you're basically going on this path that's essentially on rails. And the only sort of puzzles that you will encounter is when you're trying to find the access point to the next room, because this is a house which has got all these different secret passages which have been installed in it. And the whole building itself has started off as one structure, and as different family members have moved in, they've all added their own little extensions onto the building. So you have this situation where we have a very sort of like Wes Anderson style family situation. If you think of something like the Royal Tenenbaums, for example, or then you would probably have this idea, because each of the rooms are very much themed to the occupant, and as you go through it, you will see that the less for many of these rooms, they're less about the person who lived there, more just sort of a shrine to their memory, in many ways. And often, what serves as the shrine will be a link in some way to what caused their demise. But I mean, story-wise, how did you find this one, Kim?
I really thought the story was like really charming, mostly because I like super odd things. Like I like really weird things that happen in games. I don't know, I guess it shows in some of the game choices that I have and things that I enjoy playing a lot and that really stand out for me. Like I think that the narration was really great. Like I mean everyone was, everyone was voiced.
Yeah.
So obviously there's a lot of effort and there's like and the voice acting was pretty good. I have to say, like it was very convincing and very enthusiastic and for the most part we listened to Edith the most and she's she's like, it's intriguing to watch her go through this house as she discovers these secrets that her mom has hidden away from her. Like it's an interesting way of portraying the story as well because as you walk along, you see it kind of guides you with its words because the text will show up on the item or the building or the direction that you need to go in and that really helps with just not being lost in this big house. And I think that one of the big things is the house itself, just walking up to it and you see all these different items in the beginning of the game, like how the house is, and then all the additions it has added on. It has a character of its own.
Oh, definitely so, and the same can be said for the actual subtitles that we appear on the screen. Very reminiscent of Noche Dozia or Night Watch, as it's known in both the States and the UK, where the subtitles actually become part of the film, and it's very much the case here, where the subtitles aren't just on the screen as they're being read out at the diary passages. They're there, and they can be knocked to path, or they can be swept away, and they often become wrapped up within the story that's being told. Certainly, one of the deaths involves flying a kite in a hurricane, and you see the words being swept up
Yeah.
in this storm. Is there such a for what I've entered into, thinking this was going to be a very sort of traditional sort of story that you wander around and find a few clues. It's got a very dark sense of humor to this game, which I really appealed to myself. Certainly,
Mm-hmm.
when you're looking at one of the deaths, which involves someone flying off a swing off a cliff, in their attempts to swing all the way around. We've got someone being guillotined. There's accidental goring by a deer. And at the same time, we have some rather more tragic deaths. We have a death of a child,
Yeah.
which is both heartbreaking yet extremely well done. As and the fact that often with these deaths you're playing through them, but
Mm-hmm.
the matter that you choose to tell the story is never the same for any particular
Yeah.
Finch. There'd be one where the story is
Where you're
told by you taking a series of photographs. Another will be that you're
a
in some
comic book strip.
exactly, and I mean the comic book strip in particular. I mean that's just a straight up rip off of Tales of the Crypt. The Crypt Keeper probably see being replaced by this Jack o' lantern called Uncle
Yeah.
Jack. But the style of humor was just fantastic. The fact that you find out about her death by reading for this comic book, and it's a good story that it's
Yeah.
told.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I think is really great about it is that like not only does it provide enough adventure to make you immerse into it, it's also the fact that every story is done really well. And whether it's long or short or whatever, even in the first story when we play as like a little girl called Molly, you become a cat and then you become like and then you hop in and you become a shark and then like you become an octopus and it's just like it's pure absolute weirdness, but it worked so well in its own way and I think that that was such a great way to kind of like segue you into a story to make like well pretty much anything can happen and as I think at the end of the game, as you look back at everyone and all the deaths, you have to kind of think that what remains of Edith Finch kind of has this like deeper meaning of how this family was killed literally by imagination. Everybody was died because of imagination. You know, everybody had this like overactive imagination. Even the child, you know, like as you know, the death of the child, you saw like the stuff and you know, like the stuff flying around, and you were able to move everything, and you know, it was just really it's a really crazy thing that like I kind of thought about that at the end. I don't know if that was their intention, but I don't know if you felt that way.
Well, I mean, with the child, the actual child is described as having a vivid imagination, and we
Yeah,
do obviously see this from the fact that we're having a bath from the child's perspective. So
yeah,
we can play with like the toy frog and the rubber duck, and we can throw things around. And just when we're actually in each of these environments, this isn't like doesn't look like you're in a level designed as a video game. It
hmm,
feels like you're in an actual immersive location that you can
yeah,
look at the shelves, you can see different books, you can see like when you go into Barbara's room, you can see all the pictures from her childhood, from her like past as a child actress. So there's like all these references to this Bigfoot movie that she did. And certainly playing this game is not really a game in the traditional sense. And it's more that you're essentially living through this experience. I mean, the whole game it lasts about an hour and a half to 2 hours, depending on how lost and how quick you are to pick up certain keys. And while you aren't essentially playing a game, you're watching a film essentially. All you really do is just move from one location to the next. The experience is so immersive and enjoyable that you don't really mind. Um, Even though I think what you will mind is the slightly weighty price tag attached to this game, which for an hour and a half, I don't think it sort of justifies that price tag really. And again, this has always been the problem when we look at like walking simulators such as like Firewatch. We have this problem where the games aren't particularly long enough, but we have these wonderful immersive experiences, and we have to sort of weigh up how the experience was against the price that we're paying for said experience.
yeah. I mean, we had a similar discussion recently for another review, and we had compared that to Little Nightmares, which was about a 4 hour game, which had a pretty hefty price tag. But you know, I've been really thinking about this lately, about how much to spend on various games, and I feel like for What Remains of Edith Finch, the price really goes into the production and for the amount of voice acting, as it's like voice acted through the entire thing. And I guess that's where all the budget went into, in the sense that there was a lot of this and it was really well polished compared to, you know, recently there were games that we played which didn't put the budget into these things, and it fell short of what it was supposed to be in terms of storytelling. So I don't know. I mean, it's really depends. I think on the price tag, it really depends on what a person values. If you're really looking for quality gameplay, then dishing out the $20 or whatever the price tag is okay. You know, it's worth it mostly because this game is quite, you know, it is very well polished. Actually, I thoroughly enjoyed it for everything it is. Even though, you know, walking simulators are hard because for the really adventurous gamers, this experience might be a little bit tame. Although, you know, I do say that this is, you know, we keep saying it over and over again, is the adventure value in here is really, I feel that it also goes in the fact that they properly was able to do the controls well. So like if you were swinging, you had to use like both your shoulder pads, so both your feet were moving to move back and forth and back and forth. And I think that applying the right mechanics into how to do the adventure also helped with the immersiveness.
Yeah, I feel certainly playing this, I was so tempted to see if this was like it could be done as a VR experience because I feel that it would be so immersive. The fact everything
Yeah.
is constantly shot in a first person perspective.
Hmm.
Um, None so more than when you look at Edith's brother, who you find out was a recovering drug addict, and he's working at the cannery, and his whole thing is that he was like constantly escaping into this like heavenly creature style fantasy life where he's like this king. All the
Oh, you mean
while,
the fish one. Okay, chopping the fish. Okay.
yeah, and all the while he's working still at the cannery, so you're there moving the fish
Yeah,
onto the guillotine,
multitasking. Yeah.
and you're playing out this gauntlet style uh designed little mini game, and it just constantly surprised me how the game chose to present each of its characters, because no two are the same. I mean, as I said, you either swing on a swing. You're, as I said, working in a cannery 1 minute. You can be going on a Charles acid trip, which is the only way I can describe the fact you go from a cat to a shark to a sea monster. And it was just constantly so inventive that it kept me with it throughout. And by the end, I mean, I didn't certainly feel disappointed. I mean, yes, it was a shorter
Yeah.
experience than I was expecting, and certainly the ending is a new one, should we say, for gaming experiences. And I'm not even going to reveal how this game ends, but it's certainly a unique way to end your game, certainly. But no, this is certainly an experience, and it reminds us again of what video games can be. That we
Yeah.
don't have to constantly stick to these traditional formats, and that it's occasionally nice to have these companies that are pushing the boundaries of what a game can be, and that you can have to sell something on the experience, which this game really is. It's an experience that you're
Hmm.
taking in.
Yeah, I think that's the perfect word to say it. It is an experience. So what would you give this game out of 5?
I'm gonna give this. I'm gonna give this 4.5 out of 5. The only reason I'm sort of knocking it down slightly is that some of the sections the mechanics of them don't particularly work, and I also feel that it lacks that sort of replay value. In that, I'm not sure if I would return to this again, and if I did, I don't know how long it will be until I return to it. Um, yes, you probably have won me over in the case of the price point, but I think it's just really just the replayability and the mechanics of certain sections not particularly working as well as I would like. But certainly the journey that I was taking on with these characters and the writing and the storytelling, and certainly the pitch black sense of humor that this game has certainly appealed to myself. I mean, it's a chance to explore a house and then go find hidden passages and just constantly find something new and exciting around every corner. I mean, it's really what you want from this sort of a game. You don't know what you're going to get with this, and I think that sense of anticipation and excitement at the unknown is just certainly something that makes me makes it hard not to recommend it. I mean, yes, it's not going to appeal to everyone just due to the nature of the game it is, but certainly I feel that it's a game certainly worth the accolades that it's been receiving.
Hmm.
For yourself.
I'm actually exactly at the same spot as you, and I feel like it's getting really boring for everyone. I'm at a 4.5 also, mostly because I do agree some of the mechanics were a little rough around the edges. I could have used a little polishing. Very rare cases, but for the most part, I mean, 4.5 is a pretty great score on our level since we haven't given out a 4.5 in a while. Um, and yeah, I really truly recommend what remains of Edith Finch quite a bit. Like I think that for all the hype it's getting, it's completely worthy of it. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, share, and subscribe. Head over to our home base, thatmomentin.com, to read gaming reviews. To get gaming news every single day, follow us on Twitter and like us on Facebook at Game Warp Podcast. You can hang out with us on our Twitch channel where we stream at Game Warp Podcast, and check out our gaming obsessions and random gaming thoughts on Instagram, instagram.com/Game Warp Podcast. Till next time, bye!